All right, folks, welcome to another episode. This is pretty cool, man. I like just getting on here and just talking a bit, being able to talk in a long format. It's kind of cool. I think it's kind of cool. So anyway, interesting topic today, of course. Always try to make it interesting. I'm going to try to in the future. Plein air for introverts. And this is something I struggle with over the years. I think many other people out there are probably still struggling with it to this day because I've gotten messages from people over the years about, wow, you're so brave for like being able to paint outside and like in front of people. And I didn't feel brave. I felt like I get nervous sometimes. I get anxious. I still to this day get anxious if I have to go to some kind of event somewhere where I don't know anyone and there's a lot of people. I get nervous because, I like being comfortable. And for me, being comfortable is just sitting here in my apartment by myself or with a friend or something, people that I know, people that I'm close with. So I get a little anxious when I'm around a bunch of people that I don't know. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's from the past. If you think back to like going to school and stuff, I was around a bunch of people that weren't very nice, going to grade school and middle school, and you're around all these people all the time. Maybe that's some kind of traumatic experience that you kind of build up a habit of like, I kind of don't like being around a bunch of people. I don't know where it comes from. But I've kind of always been shy my whole life and introverted. I'm sure there's a lot of artists, at least from what I see, like a majority of artists are introverted. It kind of makes sense because it's just a way to express yourself. There's definitely a spectrum of people out there, from extroverted to introverted and in between. There's introverts that never want to leave their house, don't want to talk to anyone, and they're just completely super shy and just closed off and are fine with it. And then there's people that are so extroverted that they can't stand to be alone. They always want to be around friends. Like they always want to be doing something. So there's definitely this whole spectrum, obviously. And I think most people are in between somewhere. I find for myself, I'm definitely more on the introverted side. I'm definitely more quiet. I tend to listen more. I don't talk as much for the most part. It may seem like I talk a lot because on this channel, that's what I do. But when I'm in like a group of people, I kind of chill back, relax. I don't really talk a whole lot. I kind of listen and observe and learn about people and yeah, it's interesting. So introverted, being able to go outside and paint and have strangers approach you and stuff, it's definitely intimidating, I guess is the word. When I first started out, I'm trying to think back. So when I first started Plein Air, I was in Delaware. This was 2012, maybe 2013, probably 2012. I started painting outside with the Plein Air group, and I was actually not very anxious, not nervous. I was kind of confident. I didn't really care about what people thought. I carried around this big like French Plein Air easel, and I painted on small little panels. It's just hilarious looking back at some of the photos. I have this big easel, and then I'm painting this small little painting. So at that time, like I didn't really care what people thought. I was using acrylics and I just felt really comfortable. Maybe I was naive a little bit with my paintings and stuff. I didn't really, I didn't have like super high quality paintings, but I knew I was having fun really. I just wasn't worried about what people thought. And then in 2013, I moved to California, a new place, new environment. And I kind of was a little afraid. This is when I kind of got more afraid again about just being around people and stuff. It's just a whole life change moving to somewhere new, not knowing anyone, not having a Plein Air group or anything to kind of go with. I think maybe that's one of the things that made it easier because I was with a group of people. So I didn't have to worry about someone focusing mostly on myself. I had like this other group of painters. So I kind of fit in somewhere. I felt like I had a community. But when you're going out on your own and into a town or wherever, through some neighborhoods or something, and you're by yourself setting up some painting stuff, it's people are going to look at you. People are going to be like, what's going on here? It's kind of interesting. But I think at least for myself, I'm speaking from my own experience, I tend to think negatively. I tend to think, not always, but I tend to think like people are going to think I'm a weirdo. People aren't going to like the art that I'm doing, but I've never had a negative experience while plein air painting. I've never had anyone come up to me and go, wow, that painting's awful, or what are you doing? Like, what's going on out here? It's always been positive. It may not always be the case for everyone, depends on your location and where you are. I've heard some stories of people getting into trouble painting in neighborhoods and stuff. And, neighbors getting freaked out if you're painting their house or something, or doing a painting of their house. But I've never personally experienced anything like that. It's always been positive. People have always been supportive, really like art. And most people are just fascinated by what you do. And most people are like art and they wish they could draw. Most people, I've had that so many times. People are like, man, I wish I could paint, or I wish I could draw, or I used to do that when I was younger and I just kind of gave up on it. I wish I would have stuck with it because now I'm in a job that I don't like, and etc. So people are fascinated and appreciative of like the patience you have, the dedication you have, and it's all positive stuff, really. So try to remember that, before you go out painting and you're feeling like nervous or scared or something. Just think like, people are going to be supportive for the most part. And most people may not even bother you. Most people walk by, they'll look at you. They'll probably in their mind be like, oh man, that's really cool. I've had people not directly talk to me. Like I've had a couple walk by me and the woman was like, oh, look at that. That's really cool. And the boyfriend's like, oh yeah, it looks nice. They don't even talk to me. They just say it to themselves. So most people are really supportive. So you just have to keep that in mind. Also, an interesting story I came across years ago on YouTube. There's this video. If you go on YouTube and you search Rabbi Lobster Growth, I know it sounds weird, but it's a rabbi who tells a story about, I think he was sitting in a dentist's office, before his appointment or something. He got there early and he picked up a magazine, and it was some kind of science magazine, and it had an article about lobsters and how they grow. And he started reading this article and he found it fascinating because the way a lobster grows is it has this shell, this hard shell. And it eventually starts growing and growing, and it becomes more and more uncomfortable as it grows because this hard shell is just tightening down on its body as its body is growing and expanding. It gets more and more uncomfortable. But eventually it has a breakthrough. Boom, the shell pops off, and then the cycle starts all over again. It grows a hard shell, or whatever happens. I'm not exactly sure. But the shell hardens, it keeps growing, gets more uncomfortable, boom, breaks through. Same thing, repeats over and over. And it's fascinating because you can apply this to humans. If you think about, think of me. I've been lately, the last few weekends, I've been going out to San Francisco and seeing a band that I really enjoy. Going to these little small shows and, for like 4 hours, just seeing like 4 different bands play. And 3 of the bands, I don't even know who they are. I just know one band and I don't know anyone there. I'm going to a show completely by myself, like on a Saturday night, Friday night. And it's something I never do. It's completely different, completely out of my element. But it's something I really enjoy doing. I really like seeing this band play, and I like hearing other bands and new bands and discovering new music. And it's all local bands. And sometimes I end up talking to somebody there and having a cool conversation with someone that's really cool, and just meeting new people and getting out. And what I found is I'm very nervous when I get there, very afraid. I really anxious. But there's sometimes when I drive there, it takes me like 2 hours to get there to San Francisco. I got to go through traffic, get there. When I finally get there and park, I have these doubts in my mind. I'm like, do I really want to go and see this show right now? Like I could just go home right now because I'm like afraid of like being around this big group of people, 50 to 100 people in this show packed together. And then I think, why, Brandon, I took all this time to drive out here. I bought tickets ahead of time online. It's going to be a great time hearing the music and stuff. Why do I want to go home? Like, why is this fear telling me to abort the mission, abort this thing that I enjoy doing? And it's just because I have this fear of like being around people. I don't know if I have this fear of like being judged or something or whatever it is. And I'm trying to get over that. I'm trying to work through it. I'm trying to improve myself. And it's been good. I'm not saying I'm like perfect at it or anything, but it's definitely becoming easier for me to do. But bringing it back to the lobster analogy, you have to go through these uncomfortable moments for you to have this breakthrough and to feel like it's always worth it to me. Every time I go to these shows and see these bands play and stuff, it's like, it was worth it at the end of the night. I feel amazing. The whole weekend is like, man, that was such a great time. Like, that was so worth it. Like, I should do that more often. Because it's something I used to never do. I used to never go out and be around people or talk to anyone, or it's just something I didn't do, and I'm trying to work on that. And I feel it's going to help me overall in my life. It's something that's going to improve my life. It's helping me develop courage and face my fears and get outside of, just, improving myself. So yeah, I think, think of that lobster story. It's a very powerful story when you're coming up against these fears. You have to work through it. And there's an interesting quote. It's something like, it's about courage. And it's like, courage isn't the opposite of fear. Courage is when you have the fear, but you act anyway. You do the thing you want to do anyway, or the thing you need to do anyway. Like, it's having that fear, but just ignoring that fear and doing it anyway. So it's not the lack of fear, because you're still going to feel that. It takes a little while to get used to it and get over it. And I'm still working through that, still figuring it out. So anyway, even thinking back to the beginning of this YouTube channel, I got so nervous every time I turned the camera on and pressed to record. It just felt like I was recording live for some reason. I would get so nervous, like I'm talking to people, I'm going to stumble over my words, and oh God, I don't know what I'm going to say. And like, what happens if I mess up in the middle? Even though I can edit the video later on, I was still so nervous when I would turn the camera on. But now it's no problem. I can hit record, boom, and just talk like this and have this stream of flow of thoughts, stream of consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And you get better at it over time. It's something I was uncomfortable with the very beginning for the first few months doing it. And then over time, I got better and better. I developed this kind of voice that I speak in and thoughts that I have. And I just let things happen. I just let these thoughts come out. And hey, sometimes I say some stupid things and people comment on it and laugh about it. And it's cool. It's all good. Everything's good, man. It's all good. So in general, man, I'm just talking about being introverted and facing fears and stuff, because I think introverts, at least myself, it ends up, you get a lot of fear, like being anxious. Like, that's being afraid. That's like being nervous. It's having this fear of something, at least that's how I interpret it. But getting back to Plein Air, there was a few times I started going out in California, facing my fear a little bit. And what I felt helped me was to go out at times where I knew there wasn't going to be many people, and go to places where I knew that there weren't going to be many people. And this just helped me slowly develop confidence of going outside and painting outside, getting used to the environment and painting outdoors and creating a couple good paintings. Because then you start building up confidence, like, okay, I can paint from life, I can paint outdoors. And then maybe you'll get one or two people walk by you, or one person talk to you, and it might be a positive experience. And then you get more confidence. Everything starts building up slowly. It takes time. It's like that lobster, like I was saying. You're going to have some uncomfortable moments, but you're going to work through them. You're going to have this breakthrough. And the breakthrough for me was eventually, I started doing this series on YouTube, filming it. I did a bunch of oil paintings. I think it was like 11 episodes or something. It wasn't even that much. Back in the day, I thought it was like this big deal. I made like this whole season of like 11 episodes. But that was I had a lot of confidence back then. But even then, I still didn't film around a lot of people. I didn't vlog around a lot of people. My real breakthrough was like a year or two later when I started doing watercolors and I started filming a lot more. I had a smaller camera. I was able to film anywhere. And I took a trip to England and Paris. And I decided that I was going to vlog the entire trip, not just the painting experience, but the trip itself. And so I had to walk around on the streets with people seeing me and me holding up a camera and talking to the camera. It was very bizarre. And at the beginning, I was always afraid, man. I was very nervous, always afraid. You might be able to tell when you watch the videos. But what I noticed it was a 2-week trip, and I spent most of it in England and then like 4 days of it in Paris. What I noticed is by the time I got to Paris, like 9 days into the trip, I was so much more comfortable being in front of the camera, and I just didn't even care anymore about people on the sidewalk or people watching me or people whatever anyone thought, like I just did not care. Didn't care at all. And I did it 9 days in a row up to that point. And it just got more and more comfortable. So I think there's something to that. It's just you have to face your fear and do it consistently. And then you start to realize like, hey, I survived, nothing happened. Nothing bad happens. You go outside, you do a painting, you have some fun, you enjoy yourself. Maybe someone comments on it or something, big deal. Have some fun, enjoy yourself. It's not a big deal. I painted at Stonehenge. This was like the 5th day into the trip or something. And that might have been one of the critical moments, I think, like the turning points, because there was a lot of people there. A lot of people huddled around me. I was squatting down on the ground painting. You can go see this video. Just search like SchaeferArt at Stonehenge, painting Stonehenge. And I didn't even really notice all the people around me. I was just tunnel vision, looking down at what I was painting and the Stonehenge in front of me. And I was nervous before I pulled out my painting stuff. There wasn't a whole lot of people when I started painting, but as the painting progressed and it took like a half an hour to 40 minutes to paint this thing or however long it took, I had a whole group of people around me. And people just kept walking by, and there was just a ton of people everywhere. And I got a lot of comments on YouTube about it here. Like people were like, wow, you're so brave to do that. Like, how did you deal with all the people around you? And for me, I didn't even think about it. Wasn't even a thought. So when I was responding to people's comments, I was like, what was I thinking? Like I wasn't even, basically, I remember when I was pulling out my painting stuff, I almost decided not to do a painting at Stonehenge. I was there and I was like, do I want to paint Stonehenge? I was like, you know what? I may never come back here ever again at Stonehenge. Like this is one of the epic moments on the trip. I've been wanting to come to Stonehenge for a few years now and see it. I'm finally here. This is it. This is the moment. It's like that Eminem song, Lose Yourself, from like years and years ago. Like, this is the moment, man. This is it. You got to lose yourself in the moment. You get one shot, like he says, you know what I mean? And that was my one shot. That was it. And I just pulled out my painting stuff, squatted down, just started doing it. And didn't even notice all the people around me. I didn't notice till once I finished the painting. My girlfriend at the time was like, I took some video of you and there was a ton of people standing around you. And I was like, oh, really? I had no idea. I never looked up around me and saw people. So sometimes you can just ignore people. Towards the end of the painting, like one guy started talking to me, like an Asian man started talking to me, and we were just joking and stuff, laughing. Because he was telling me to like paint people into the painting, because there's a lot of people around. But yeah, you just have to, if I thought about every plein air situation the way that I thought while I was at Stonehenge, that's the way to think about it, because it's always only that one moment. You only have that one moment right now, and you got to seize the moment, man. You got to do it. And you can't let that fear stop you. And I've let fear stop me so many times in the past. So many times. This episode's more about fear than it is like introverts, but hopefully it's helpful. Hopefully it goes hand in hand, But that's really the key here, is like, the more you do something, the way to get confident about something, or the way to get confident with doing something or being confident at something, however you want to say it, I don't even know how you're supposed to say it, is the more you do it, the more you'll get confident. That's it. That's all there is to it. It's like asking out women or something, or approaching men or whatever you're into. Like, I'm afraid to approach women and like ask women out because I fear that rejection. But I've realized recently, like, the more you approach women and just talk to them and not expect anything, and yeah, some women are just going to reject you, but it has nothing to do with you. It could be their needs. Like, maybe you're not meeting what they need. It has nothing to do with your own value or how, it's just their perception of you. It has no basis in reality of yourself. But the more you approach people and the more you talk to people, the more you realize, like, okay, there's a lot of nice people out there, like, and you get more confident at it. You start feeling more comfortable with it, confident, comfortable, things like that. And I feel like now I can pretty much paint anywhere, I think. I can go anywhere, paint anywhere. I haven't vlogged in a long time, so I might be a little nervous to do that in certain situations, but I know that I've done it in the past and I can do it again. It's just something, I'm going to have that fear. I know it. I know if I try to vlog in some city or something, I'm going to have some fear of people around me. But the important thing is that I work through it at the time, not let that fear stop me, and do my best with it. And that's what you have to do with plein air. Like if you really want to do it and you really enjoy painting or drawing or sketching, whatever it is that you want to do with plein air, like give it a shot. Don't let your fear of like being antisocial or whatever the case might be, don't let any fear kind of stop you from feeling good, having an amazing experience. And that's what I try to bring with my whole plein air series, is like just show people like sometimes you're going to fail. Sometimes the paintings are going to suck. Sometimes you're going to get embarrassed. Sometimes you're going to be afraid. All these things are going to happen, but just doing your best in the moment and not overthinking it and not letting that fear stop you for the most part, if you can, that's the way to go. That's the way to go. And you'll get better. You're going to get better. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this little talk. Remember that lobster story? It's a great story, man. It's just a great little anecdote, or whatever you want to call it, to life. You're going to be uncomfortable as you're growing, but you're going to have a breakthrough and you're going to get through it. And anything is possible in life. Anything is achievable. And you can't let a little bit of fear stop you from doing what you want to do and achieving things you want to achieve and going places you want to go, man. And that's the key. That's the key to this video, key to this talk. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any other topics you'd like me to cover in the future, I'd love some suggestions. Love to hear from you. Take care of yourself. Peace, my friends.